Right. 30 April 2024. And today I'm going to be going through quite a very detailed topic. So I'm not going to say a lot, but I'm going to be looking at something that I've been hearing over the past few days. And I want to unpack what is happening and what is going to happen. So we are in the middle of a big change in Zimbabwe. And if you don't pay attention to what is happening, things are going to pass by and you won't understand what has happened. So you will suddenly see things happening and you won't know what is happening. So it's very important to be alert and to know what is happening, what is about to happen, and what just happened. And as you know, I prefer to deal with things that are coming. So most of the time, when you see me talking, I talk about things that are going to come, not about things that have happened. I leave that to other people. So I want to look at what has been happening in the intelligence circles. So I've been talking to a number of people in the intelligence circles, and there is a general belief that the death of Mnangagwa's director of investments was not a natural death, that there was something sinister that happened. As you heard yesterday, Mnangagwa announced that Nyasha Dzimiri died from diabetes. But what I've actually heard is that that is not the case. And what is happening is a broader program that is happening within the same thing that I was explaining to you within the generals, that my general Argubatwa Seishwa. So there is a bigger and broader problem, and we're going to be seeing more and more developments. The question is actually who is coming next, who is going to go next. And today I'm going to unpack that. There is a serious problem within the security structures of Zimbabwe, and especially the period we've entered, which is the post-Mnangagwa era. So the post-Mnangagwa era is upon us. The question is who is going to take over after Mnangagwa. And what you're going to see is a drama, because the people that you think are going to take over are probably not the people that are going to take over. It's a scramble for the office of president. And that scramble is going to take the next 5 to 10 years. So the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see a scramble for the office of the president of Zimbabwe. It's not going to be nice. It's not going to be an easy process. And many people are going to fall by the wayside. So before I go into that, before I go into what I've heard, let us look at what happened yesterday. Yesterday, with the burial of the heroes. So there was a burial at the National Heroes Acre of Tsitsi Jadagu. We also had the burial of Nyasha Dzimiri and Brigadier General Vezha. So I'll share with you some of the pictures. So the families were all there, and you can see Mnangagwa handing over. I don't know if these are certificates or what, but he was handing over to the families. And there were also many people in the crowds, including a lot of soldiers, and Auxilia Mnangagwa was over here. There are other people that I do not know in this crowd, but I'm sure you will recognize these. I'm going to upload all these pictures on Gambakwe.com. Within the next 30 minutes, you'll be able to see them. These are the family members of the heroes, and these are the heroes just before they were laid to rest at the National Heroes Acre. And there were a lot of other people over here. There was also a lot of military guys. I think almost all the military guys were brought to Harare to send off Brigadier General Vezha, who was, from my analysis, the only person that was actually a serious national hero in terms of fighting in the War of Liberation. This group of heroes did not really have a lot of combat experience. Most of them, in fact, if you look at someone like Dzimiri, he went in 1976 and he spent most of his time in training. Similar to Vezha, these guys mostly spend their time in training. So if you look at Dzimiri, he went to China and then he went to Yugoslavia. And by the time they came back, even Vezha, most of the fighting was done. So these are the military guys here. The Zimbabwe military doing very, very well in terms of how they appear. I like the appearance of the Zimbabwe military. They are not embarrassing like the past. So I think their uniforms are quite well done. And I don't have any complaints about the way that they appear. So let's go into what I want to talk about here. And this is the case of Dzimiri. Dzimiri was in charge of investments. So investments in ZANU-PF are big, and investments in the Zimbabwe military are big. So the Zimbabwe military owns massive companies that in the past were quite profitable. So I do not know what is the state currently. This includes the uniforms that I'm talking about here. These were made by the Zimbabwe military. They had manufacturing plants. They also had mining operations. So the Zimbabwe military had mining operations and shareholding in mining companies. So it was actually a very profitable business. The Zimbabwe military was not dependent on the government fiscus. So in the recent past, the Zimbabwe military has become less profitable. They have become unable to take care of themselves. And if a few years ago, I think about 3 years ago, I showed you that the Zimbabwe military was actually now failing to buy even things, simple things like fuel for their cars. They were unable to patrol the borders. So this is where ZANU-PF comes in. ZANU-PF similarly had a lot of business interests. So the way that ZANU-PF was structured and ZAPU, the way ZAPU and ZANU-PF were structured was such that they were into business. So if you look at all the general things that you use in the house, they were manufactured by some companies in Bulawayo, some manufacturing companies in Bulawayo. And these companies were mostly owned by ZANU-PF, working together with some Indian families, some prominent Indian families. That is how ZANU-PF was structured. So ZANU-PF was very profitable. That is how ZANU-PF was able to build that building that you see in Harare. And also, ZANU-PF generally runs like a company. So ZANU-PF has board meetings, has committees, has governance structures. So on a Monday, if you go to ZANU-PF, they'll be having such and such a meeting, they'll be having an investment meeting, and so forth. And the main business of ZANU-PF is to stay in power. So that is the job of ZANU-PF. The job of ZANU-PF is to stay in power. They will not release power because that is their currency. That is their business model. The business model of ZANU-PF is staying in office as much as possible, using the military, using security structures, and they will never leave. That is what ZANU-PF has in their mind. So in the mind of ZANU-PF right now, the question is not when Chamisa is coming into office, like many people think. The biggest question on ZANU-PF's mind is, how do you stay in power as long as possible? And who is going to be the next leader who is going to take over? Because the moment you become the ZANU-PF leader, you now have access to the resources. And if you look at Mnangagwa, the role that Mnangagwa has played since 1980 has been pivotal in terms of what is happening in ZANU-PF. The next guys who are coming, they will never have the same history that Mnangagwa had when he formed ZANU-PF with all the. So when I say formed ZANU-PF, I'm talking about the 1983 structure. So between the period of 1980 and 1983, Mnangagwa was responsible for state security. So most of the infrastructure that you're seeing right now was set up by Mnangagwa. And Mnangagwa said that yesterday. He said he formed the CIO. So what I would do is, before this, I'm going to play the video for you. Before I leave today, I'm going to play for you the video of Mnangagwa explaining his role in the formation of the CIO. So between 1980 and 1988, Mnangagwa's job was to set up the structures or the state security structures, mainly in the CIO and in the Prime Minister's office, that is Mnangagwa's office, and also a little bit in other areas. So what he talks about, counterintelligence and so on. But he had a lot of help from the former government of the Rhodesians. And Mnangagwa was also at that particular point responsible for setting up the structures, the business structures of ZANU-PF, and therefore he had a massive control over what was happening within ZANU-PF and outside of ZANU-PF through the companies. And this is where Nyasha Dzimiri comes in. If you look at someone like Nyasha Dzimiri, eventually his last position before he died was the director of investments. But if you look at where he came from, he was with Mnangagwa in China, and he was also the bodyguard of Josiah Tongogara. So if you look at what I'm saying here, he was with Mnangagwa in China, he was a bodyguard of Josiah Tongogara, and soon after independence, he was in Mugabe's office, the Prime Minister's office. So basically what happened is between the period of 1980, in fact pre-1980, which is around 1978, and up to the period of 1988, Mnangagwa and Dzimiri were already working together inside Mugabe's office. And therefore the setting up of the structures of ZANU-PF as part of the CIO and the setting up of the business interests of ZANU-PF was directly under people like Mnangagwa and Dzimiri, who was quite junior at the time. And then in 1988, Mnangagwa was removed from the office of State Security, and Sidney Sekramai took over. So the next person that took over after Mnangagwa was Sidney Sekramai. And therefore, during that period, when Mnangagwa was not there, then Dzimiri, who was close to Mnangagwa, due to their relationship when they trained together in China, was probably the ears and eyes of Mnangagwa within the state security system or the Prime Minister's office or Mugabe's office. So Dzimiri has played an important role in how Mnangagwa and his influence was managed when he was not there in the president's office at the times when Mnangagwa was moved around and when Mnangagwa lost favor with Mugabe, and he was not having access to the resources of ZANU-PF. So now I want to go to what is going to happen, or what has been happening now. What has been happening now is, since Mnangagwa came back and the period when Mugabe was just about to be removed, CIO lost power, or they lost influence, and military intelligence took over and became very strong. I've explained this to you just after the coup, that military intelligence became very, very strong, and CIO became very, very weak. However, during all that time, Dzimiri was still in the office of Mugabe. He was brought in just before. So between the period of 2008 and 2015, so let me just get my dates correct here. Dzimiri came from Cuba, and then he went back. So that is 2007 to 2015. Dzimiri went back into Mugabe's office. So you can see that leading up to the period when Mugabe was going to be removed, Dzimiri was now back in the office of Mugabe. And you know that Mnangagwa had to have someone inside, because Mnangagwa had lost favor with Mugabe during that period between 2015 and 2017, when the coup happened. So during all these periods that I'm talking about, the ears and eyes of Mnangagwa within Mugabe's office were people like Dzimiri, who now became a director and in fact an assistant director, and he was in an office called counterintelligence. And on removal of Mugabe, what Mnangagwa did is he started to rebuild the CIO. And also remember, Dzimiri has also worked at the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. He has also worked in Air Force. So he was someone who was quite widely involved in all the things that was happening in the president's office, but similarly at the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, and in all the investment facets or things that are happening in terms of investments in Zimbabwe. So I want to tie this up now. I don't want to stay a long time on this. What is happening now is that Mnangagwa has managed to rebuild the CIO, and military intelligence is in fact now much weaker than CIO. I'm not saying weaker in terms of what they're able to do, but in terms of influence. So ma general arikubatwa si ishwa. What I mean is that the generals lack the necessary intelligence that is currently in someone else's control. So before military intelligence had more control, they were able to surprise CIO. At the moment, CIO is able to surprise military intelligence. That is how I see the situation and how I assess the situation. I could be wrong, but my assessment is that currently CIO under Mnangagwa is now much more capable than military intelligence, which has stayed static since the period when Mnangagwa took over. The generals and the control of military intelligence has become weaker than the control that has Mnangagwa in it. And here comes the formation of a new vehicle called Mutapa Fund. So this is where everything is going to go. Mutapa Fund is the foundation on which Mnangagwa has put his plans, his future plan. They're all on Mutapa Fund. I've shown you how Mutapa Funds operate. Mutapa Fund is almost an autonomous fund. No one can tell what is going over there. It's under the control of the president's office. And everything that happens is opaque to anyone else, to parliament, to members of the public. So eventually, ED is going to be sitting on billions and billions of dollars. And here comes the dynasty approach. So the dynasty is going to be funded using the Mutapa Fund. And anyone who does not agree with what is happening in the Mutapa Fund, they are going to eventually make their way out or fall by the wayside. So I think you can understand what I've just explained to you here. If you are in charge of investments and there is a new investment vehicle and you do not agree with the direction in which things are going, you are going to fall by the wayside. So I don't want to say any more or any further, so you can tie up everything together and see what could have happened here. So according to my sources, so people in intelligence, what they've told me is that there's a generally accepted belief that the death of Dzimiri was somehow connected to his work, and it was not a simple matter of a diabetic incident. So I do not know how that all connects together, but that's what I have today. That's what I've heard, and basically based on what I've said to you, based on the work that is being done and where we are going now, it won't stop. You're not going to see the end of what is happening now. Within the next few months, you're going to be back at Heroes Acre. You're going to have many, many more people passing away or dying in certain mysterious circumstances that are not explained. And this is the end of ZANU-PF. The end of ZANU-PF is not going to be simple and smooth. Power is not handed over because ZANU-PF is a military organization. At the same time, ZANU-PF is a business. And the job of ZANU-PF is to stay in office. They're not going to leave. And anyone who stays in the path of the machine that is ZANU-PF is going to be removed, is going to be eliminated. But I also believe that there are people within ZANU-PF that are secretly creating dossiers or secretly investigating or collecting information about Mnangagwa and his family, people that are not happy with the Mnangagwa family, or people that also want to come back into office or go into office. And there's going to be a clash. And the clash will be, obviously, the guys that are supposed to come in, the guys who are currently in, and what I call the third force. And that third force is very, very powerful, is very, very capable. But at the moment, the person with the biggest and most strongest intelligence is the one who's going to come up on top, because intelligence is the differentiator. And I believe that currently the military intelligence is actually weaker than the CIO. The CIO has been capacitated. And I believe that the third force might be lacking the necessary intelligence, although they're operating in the shadows. So whoever has got the biggest intelligence, that is the person that is going to be on top. And if you're caught that you're working with any of the other sides, you're obviously going to be eliminated. And obviously, I do not know what is happening behind the scenes. All I know is the residue information that I get from one or two people. Right, so now let me show you that video of Mnangagwa saying he formed the CIO. So let's see if I've got the correct spot where Mnangagwa said that. Mnangagwa said he formed the CIO, and let's see if...
He was briefly attested into the Air Force of Zimbabwe before being reassigned to the then Ministry of Social Services. He also worked at the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. Following our country's independence in 1980, I formed the Central Intelligence Organization into a truly Zimbabwean strategic and a key security national institution which it is today.
Right, so you can go and have a look at that. This video is on ZANU-PF party. You can go and look at that whole speech. You will see a lot about what happened yesterday at the burial of the national heroes. I believe that Mnangagwa is he cannot give you correct information. So if you are listening to Mnangagwa and he's talking about the history of Zimbabwe, you need to, in fact, fill in the details, because he's going to give you a certain part, but he's not going to give you the whole thing. What we are seeing now is not the real history that happened. When you hear that we've got 3 heroes, you actually have to analyze if there are 3 heroes, who is coming next, who is going to be hero, how do they compare with the other heroes in the past. So in my view, we are in a final period where things are happening, but the next 10 years will be critical. You're not going to see the removal of ZANU-PF within the next 10 years. What you're going to see is massive maneuvers and a lot of people dropping. So within the next few months, we're going to sit here and talk about massive numbers of people dropping left, right, and center. And if people are not careful and do not up their security, they're going to be the next victim. That is the thing that I'm talking about. If you're not watching, anyone that is suspected or anyone that is weak, you're going to go first. And that is how things end in a military organization. It doesn't end with a handshake. Very, very rarely do you see someone living in this kind of period. If you're suspected that you might be having some interest in power, or you might be an obstacle to power, you're going to find yourself falling on the wayside one way or the other. So everything you're going to see now, you must see it in the context of this succession battle. ZANU-PF succession battle is going to rage, and it's going to happen in public. You're going to see a lot of bodies falling, and going to the National Heroes Acre is going to become a weekly, if not monthly occurrence. So let's reverse that. A monthly, if not weekly occurrence. I want to look at the comments, then I want to go on the news. Let's see, Mkom Amadu. Gambakwe, you seem to be hiding behind big people. Someone shouting you, Hunty. How did you get all this information, influential connection? Anyway, let's wait and see your predictions. Okay, so let me explain something about me. And Amadu, I thank you very much for this question. I've been running Gambakwe Media for the past 14 years. And lucky for me, I've been very, very consistent. And I believe that a free media and a free press is the future of a country. A country with a weak media is weak externally. It can easily be attacked. And it's also weak internally. So I don't have any big people, and I don't take sides. So today you can give me information about Mnangagwa, I'll publish it. You give me information about Chiwenga, I'll publish it. You give me information about Chamisa, and I'll publish it. And people will be very mad when I publish information about Chamisa. There are periods when I'm going to be dealing with one thing. And at the moment, I'm dealing with the thing that's happening. And the guys who know me, even guys who are intelligent, they know this. There is no story that comes to me that will not be published. And I'm on no one's payroll. I've never been taking money from anyone, and I don't need to. The only money that I make is from the people that support this channel and my other work that I do. I do not take money from anybody. I'm on no one's payroll. And I've told people that I'm the only media house in Zimbabwe where anyone can walk without a question, and within an hour, if they've got something significant, it will be published. Because I do not belong to anyone, I will never be owned by anyone, and I hope we'll continue this way. So the question of which big people are behind me is not true. But if you are smart and you know how to find information and give it to me, then it will get published. And that is why you see that a lot of people that have got agendas, they will come to Gambakwe because they know that it will be published without question. So let's say you've got a big agenda and they've got big information. Obviously, it will hurt someone, but it will be published because my job is not to sit on information. I'm not a quiet media. So remember what I said, we publish stuff, we don't hide stuff. Then let's go to Mkoma Gift let's idiot, let the idiots die. We're tired of this foolish Mnangagwa. No, I don't want anyone to die, but people will die. This period that we've entered is very, very dangerous because power in Zimbabwe means that you sit on billions. Like suddenly, you can come from your house where you've got $100 in the pocket, and you sit on one of the richest countries in the world. Zimbabwe is one of the richest countries in the world. And do not think that there are no players outside. So externally, we've got many players, and internally, we've got many players. The only differentiator, as I said to you, is intelligence. If you've got weak and poor intelligence, you're going to lose. So the person that has got the biggest, the strongest intelligence, that is the person that we're going to see in office. And I'm not talking about to my suit. You know, those ones with my suit and my glass. I'm not talking about that. When I'm talking about intelligence, I'm talking about people who really know. People who've got a strategic plan that does not last 5 years. So if you've got a strategic plan that goes for 20 to 30 years, like Mnangagwa had a strategic plan that came from 1980 to 1920 to 2024, right? That is a 30-year strategy. That's why you hear Mnangagwa saying 2030. Mnangagwa had a 30-year strategy while Mugabe was just moving around, right? Mugabe did not have a plan. That's why you saw things were happening around Mugabe and he didn't know what was happening. When Mnangagwa got into office in 1980, in Mugabe's office, he had a plan. So even when Mnangagwa was not there in Mugabe's office, he was there. He had people. When he was in China, Mnangagwa studied intelligence. So when you talk of intelligence, and I tell you that is the differentiator, a big military with weapons, without intelligence, that military will lose to a small military with intelligence. That is what you are trained, and that is what these guys were trained in countries like China, in countries like Yugoslavia. They learned how to think strategically and outside the box. The problem is, if someone has got muscle, they tend to not use their brain. So that is why you see because as a group, it's like many sheep will be chased by one lion. You understand? That is strategy, that is intelligence, and that is where, as I said, Mnangagwa is focused right now. He's got a clear goal and a clear plan of where to go. The question is, are there other people that have got a better goal and a clearer strategy who are able to do better than what he has planned, which is obviously to continue with the dynasty, to put his family in place, and also to put his sons into office? That you will see that attempt being made. So someone has managed to stop Mnangagwa from going to the third term, but already had a plan B, and the plan B is in action as we speak. You can see Wicknell. While you're all watching Wicknell, what is happening on the side? That is what you need to be thinking about. Your eyes, why are your eyes going here? What's happening there? And that is what I call a blind spot. Who's got a blind spot right now? And who's directing the drama? So someone is directing the drama, and you need to understand where we are. So if you are in a movie, there is a point called the climax, where if you are sitting in that movie, they have built up for an hour. Then they will take you to a climax where you now understand everything that's happening. It's as if you made the movie, but you didn't. So that is what is happening now. Most of you think you know, but you don't know, because the drama is being directed somewhere else. Someone else has got an end goal, but you are just a spectator. You're not able to do anything. And the things that are going to happen in your eyes, and they'll happen so fast. When Mugabe was removed, I was right in the middle of the action. And you are going to wake up one day and everything will have changed. And this is going to happen in public. Let's look at another comment before I close here. Mukoma 101 is saying, because of poor diplomacy by America, Zimbabwe has chosen other allies like the CCP. I do not believe the CCP has got any interest in Zimbabwe except to extract resources. So their strategy is to, if they can, they could buy the whole thing and just lift it and go to China with it, but they don't have a strategy. What I'm talking about here is something bigger. So remember, Zimbabwe is at the center of a very important region. But remember also that there is no clarity right now of succession. So there are many actors here. We've got many actors in play, and the ones with the important and the most strongest intelligence are going to come out on top, not the ones with the biggest weapons. Because if you're taken out one by one, after 2 years, you'll all be finished. Whereas you're thinking one day you're going to wake up and take out the other side. By the time you want to take out the other side, you're all finished. That is what I think is going to happen in terms of the players right now, the current players. And Mkoma Nyambo, I'm very happy that you're back. What happened between you and Mkoma MS? You no longer read these comments. Are you guys still in good books? Mkoma MS is not here. I talked to Mkoma MS on my cell phone. So don't worry, Mkoma blessing. I hope you had a nice trip in Rwanda there. Never come. But anyway, I want to end it here. Let's look at the news. So I hope that you guys understood what I said. Let me recap so that we don't have confusion. So what I said is, Nyasha Dzimiri, according to my sources, his death was not natural. That is what my sources say. Or there is a belief in intelligence circles that his death was not natural. So I'm just publishing to you what is already widely speculated. But as you know, also in Shona culture, no person dies naturally. So there must be a balance there. But what I've heard is that the death is said is not natural. It is connected to some of the massive investments that he was looking at. So if I was familiar, I would nicely and quickly just do a toxicology test there to see, is there anything in this? But since the body is the National Heroes Acre, I don't know if you can go there now to check. But according to my sources, there is that belief among intelligence circles that death was not natural. It was connected to what is coming and also the massive investments that he was dealing with. And let's watch and see what happens next, because much more is going to happen. We're in the post-Mnangagwa era. And Mnangagwa has to decide if he is going to have influence after he's gone, or he's going to leave that influence. And it's clear, Mnangagwa will never allow influence to go away from him. Mnangagwa is one person that is going to try to either put his sons in place. If everything fails, he even tried to put Auxilia there as the president after he's gone, because he's already tried the fourth term. 2030, Mnangagwa, Anenga Achipo, if he's not there, he's going to put another person who is friendly or someone who can control Zimbabwe for the next 30 to 40 years. That is Mnangagwa's goal. They will not leave that office like walking. You have to carry them out of that office, in short. But I'm not giving you ideas. So let's now go to the news. I hope you guys understood. If you didn't understand, ask me a question here in the comments. When I finish the news, I'll check. Let's look at the news. Who has published today? We have seen Newsday newspaper has published. Newsday newspaper doing very well. Another Mnangagwa newspaper. So let's look at what they are saying at Newsday. Newsday is saying the civil servants are struggling badly. So I'm sharing with you here the newspaper. That's the headline: "Eat this and food promises on civil servants." Things have become very, very hard for civil servants, and they're earning meager salaries. I don't know how they make it. They get free buses, but basically a civil servant has got nothing. So you can go and have a look at that newspaper. Southern Sun and Newsday are one newspaper. There's also a mining director who is up for fraud. You can go and have a look at that story. And in terms of sport, so let me go to sport now. They've published the sports table. Highlanders doing very, very well. For the first time in the recent history, Highlanders have stayed on the top for such a long time. So let's look at Highlanders is 18 points, and Manica Diamonds is dropping down with 16 points. And I know the Dynamos guys are looking for Dynamos. Dynamos is outside the relegation zone, and Yada is now outside the relegation zone. So you can go to Gambakwe.com. I'm going to upload this league. That is after 9 matches. You can see that we've got 9 matches for most teams except for Herentals over there. And the match which was abandoned I think there's a match under there, FC Platinum and Chegutu Pirates. You can see the stars there. So go and have a look at that. That is very interesting. The soccer league in Zimbabwe is controlled by 1 or 2 people. So Highlanders and Dynamos are supported by Scott Sakupanya and Yada. They're all controlled by Scott Sakupanya and Kudata Gure. Those are the 3 people, and Magaya. These are the top teams you can see here at the top. And then Simba Bora, these are companies all the way down. These are companies that are running these league teams. Then if we go to, let's go to the other newspapers. I want to look at H Metro, my favorite newspaper. I read the H Metro every morning. They always have the latest news, but they tend to sometimes publish late, and I don't see what they published. So once I miss the newspaper, it's very hard for me to see it again because I'm extremely busy. I was telling someone that my day is so full that you don't even understand. I don't even have time to do anything except my workout. My workout is one thing that I will never stop. Right. So I want to look at this this story here. Bosco G was buried at 8 p.m. So go and have a look at this story, which is in the H Metro newspaper. I'm going to summarize this story for you, and the H Metro guys know that we do this. So we're going to summarize this story. He was buried at 8 p.m. And you remember who else was buried at night and why the rituals were that way. So go and have a look at this story in H Metro. Very, very interesting. You can go to their website, hmetro.co.zw. That is an extremely interesting story. Let's see if anyone else has published here, if anything else of interest is published. So I want to quickly look at it without reading the newspaper, of course, the full newspaper. I know my brothers at H Metro will kill me if I do that. So let's see what's on spot. Right. Has Shandirwa lost the plot? I don't know Shandirwa at all. I think he's a Dynamos player. So go and check out Shandirwa. I don't know this one, but I think Boss Kuji, that story, buried at 8 p.m. We're going to do a feature on it. I'll ask the guys to summarize it for you, but go to H Metro to look at it. Very, very interesting story, and H Metro always does a good job in the mornings, so you can always have something odd and weird to look at. And then in terms of Herald newspaper is crazy, right? So let's look at what they say yesterday. I've got yesterday's paper here. I want to show you what the Herald newspaper said. And I want to make a comment on this because it's crazy. They are saying Harare, ZANU-PF makes inroads in Harare. Who doesn't know that Mnangagwa and Chabang, they took out the MPs of CC. So it's clear that there's no inroads being made here. No normal person is going to vote for ZANU-PF in the urban areas. ZANU-PF should just stop. They should just stop trying. No one is going to vote for that thing that you're seeing in Harare, where the town has become like a growth point. So ZANU-PF, no one likes them in the cities. And when I say no one, I mean like if you take all these people here and have a private, so these people are the ZANU, right? That is ZANU-PF function. And say, who likes ZANU here? No one likes ZANU. And that's not an exaggeration. No one likes ZANU-PF in the cities. ZANU-PF has failed. Mnangagwa is made people's life seriously bad. Mnangagwa, there is no worse person currently in the history of Zimbabwe presidents. Mnangagwa is currently the worst president that we've ever had. You go down in history as someone who turned Harare into Juru growth point. Instead of turning Juru growth point into Harare, he turned Harare to Juru growth point or Nyika growth point. Like one of the places that when you go there, you wonder what is going on. It's so terrible, Harare right now under Mnangagwa. People are drinking sewage. Can you believe it? So I think to say that people are going to vote for ZANU in Harare, it's an exaggeration. Chamisa is doing very, very well. This week, we're going to get a bit more clarity. If you go to Ostalo's Twitter, you'll see that they've started setting up the structures. But as I said, do not think that change is coming through an election. You're going to see things that you've never seen in this period that we've entered, where Mnangagwa is leaving and those who are coming are in 2 groups. So that is the group that is expected to come in Anachuenga, and so forth. They think they're coming in. But there is a third force. That third force is going to try to get into office by taking out, first, they want to take out Chiwenga. They've already taken out Chamisa. Now they're going to go and take out, after they take out Chiwenga, then they take out the group Mnangagwa. I've given you the order. And this whole thing is going to take about 10 years. You're going to see a lot of bodies dropping. So that's my prediction. You're going to see bodies dropping left, right, and center. So let's let's go into the last comment. Eino is saying your concern is beyond measure. Gambakwe, you must run a brief on how Zimbabwe is carbon copy of China and Russia political landscape. Yes, we'll talk about it. And then Goma Isaac saying, good morning, Gambakwe. May you please help us? Must we put our trust in SADC again? No, don't put your trust in SADC. Put your trust in what I'm saying now. Zimbabwe is not going to have a political transition that comes from one party to another. You are going to have a brief period right now, which we're in, of a lot of unrest and shuffling and dropping of people in ZANU. Then you're going to have a dialogue. After a dialogue, you're going to have a referendum. After a referendum, you're going to have a transitional authority. After a transitional authority, you're then going to have an election, which is likely going to be around 2038 to 2040. So you're looking at another 10 years to 15 years of unrest. So when you plan your things, you need to plan 10 to 15 to 20 years time. Do not play with time. Do not waste time because there's a lot that is going to happen. And you're going to be in a drama. And that drama, you won't understand what it is. And Koma Eno saying the third force is Mnangagwa positioning themselves. The generals are being taken out. General Chiwenga must make a move. I don't want to tell General Chiwenga what to do. Because the problem is, I don't know if Chiwenga is able to create a team. Remember, that is the game. I said here, there's intelligence. You need to have good intelligence. You also need to have a good team. And you have to be ruthless. Ruthless means you are willing to do what needs to be done. Those three, they don't come together. The person that must be sitting on top of these three things I've told you is called a godfather. So a godfather is someone who makes a strategic decision. And he tells people to implement that strategic decision. But he also oversees the implementation. So he can even walk up to that thing and do it himself. He's not operating at arm's length. So the problem that we have now is some of the people don't have the authority to control everything. So to be a godfather, you must be able to control everything. You must control the police, the army, the prisons. You know, you see what I'm saying? The godfather in Italy, what does he control? He controls everything because everything works together. That's what you must understand. So the third force, they don't know who it is. So my understanding is that Mnangagwa is hunting who is in the third force. It's not the Mnangagwa dynasty. The Mnangagwa dynasty is that side. There is a third force that Mnangagwa does not understand. And he's trying very hard. So Mkoma Ngobani, good question. Who is the third force? That is the question that Mnangagwa is trying to answer right now. He doesn't know. So I've talked to guys who say to me, the Mnangagwa doesn't know who is in the third force. And is desperately trying to find out who is in the third force. So that is why you're going to see drama within the next 10. So give this thing from here to 2040. This thing is not going to end the way you think. There's going to be a lot more drama here. And we're going to be talking about it. I've said during the time when Mnangagwa was trying to come in, first he was in the shadow. I've walked in with people around. So when I was in Mam Juru's camp, she had over 20 to 30 guys around her every day. Like everywhere, I went to a meeting where Mam Juru was. There'll be 20 to 30 guys just loitering around, pretending to like her. Now, I want to show you something. Now, I want you guys to see very, very clearly what I'm talking about here. Right? And look at that. How many guys do you see here around Mnangagwa? And among these guys, there's third force people here. I don't want to lie to you. There's third force people right here among this group of people that are surrounding Mnangagwa. And this is just a small snippet. because I think security of Mnangagwa is now over 60 people after the John Doe incident. Mnangagwa probably moves around 60 to 70 people. At this time, Chiwenga was not there. Chiwenga was in Iran, and second lady Mutapa didn't even show up. So what you are seeing, that's a reflection of what I was telling you about intelligence. So everyone is collecting intelligence on the other, and if you've got weak intelligence, you end up one way, you'll be taken out, but it's not going to be immediate. So you must understand that the way this happens, it happens in bursts. So there'll be a period of calm when people are collecting and finding out what's going on. Then someone is going to move. The person that moves is going to look at how the other one moves. And so it's going to be a long period, and the suffering of Zimbabweans is going to continue even worse. So let me bring this to an end because it's an endless topic. And then let's go to South Africa. There's a trending topic here of Sangoma. So senior managers at NASA, Yuku South Africa, SASA, it's called SASA. They brought in a Sangoma. So you're seeing that guy with a snake in the office. So in the office, when you get in the office every morning and you put your lunch there, somebody put the snake the last night over it. So, but it was not over lunch. This is a fight over jobs and fight over corruption. There's a lot of corruption in SASA. So someone will be trying to close your eyes with their Sangoma. So that is a trending story. You can go check it out. Just say, type South Africa SASA. Two senior managers brought in their Sangoma at night and were photographed by the CCTV, and they've been suspended for doing such a thing. When I was working at the bank in Zimbabwe, someone did the same thing. They brought a Sangoma into the office, and they thought we didn't know. But the good thing is that I was in IT and we knew who did what. I even knew who was dating who at the company. Like some of the secretaries will be dating a boss, and they write each other email. And sometimes it gets lost, it comes to me. And I see, oh my God, this married woman. Right, I think let's bring this to an end. And obviously, Dr. Clarence is back. Please support him. We're trying to obviously build up, after his channel was attacked, we're going to build up Dr. Clarence. And we're also going to build up Gambakwe media to be as big as possible. As I said, a strong media is good for the country. There are people who call me when they need help, who cannot go anywhere else, and will get the problem sorted. Mnangagwa, before he makes a decision, Saka, let's make sure we keep a strong media. Nothing's going to happen to me. Don't worry, guys. I'm well protected. And 2030, then cheapo. You see, 2040, then cheapo. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching.